Our next presenter needs not much introduction. Everybody knows who our next speaker is. And she can go by a single name. Everybody knows who Hitomi is. Um, Hitomi has been a friend of the Hawaii floriculture industry for over a decade.
Oh yeah, well over.
Well over a decade. And I remember hearing your name first from Harold Tanoe, who said, we're getting a rock star designer to join the Hawaii team. And this was before the Macy's show.
Yeah.
So that's how Harold described you,
Oh, that's
that
nice.
you're a rock star designer. And without further ado, and before I forget, Hitomi is not only a talented and innovative designer, but education has been always a main concern, major focus of all your work. So, and as it's evolving from design and now to sustainability, we've seen changes. And so, without further ado, here's Hitomi to share with us her exciting new ideas.
Thank you very much. Oof. That's a big step. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you. This is like Hawaii for me is like a second home, really, because I've been working with these wonderful growers and a lot of the people that's on the HFNA committee and all the different commodity groups for very many years. I mean, it really kind of started with when they first came over to Vancouver and they were doing a trade show, like the food show. And then they would ship boxes of flowers and they would hire somebody local to do the flowers to decorate the booth. And that's kind of how our relationship began. And then my son came over here to go to school here for 5 years. So then, like I can hang out at all the farms and go see all the new products and stuff. And I really discovered when I went to their places that there were a lot more offering than I ever thought. You know, we always thought red anthurium, red. And then we found out that, as you saw when you visited, that there's so many different colors that we were not familiar with. So it was like every time I came, there was something new. And even this strip, you know, with Bruno, you know, and Justin and Tim and Suzanne, Sue McCleary, you know, we went out to some of the farms and we also went to the botanical gardens, by the way. So if any of you are staying an extra day or so, I really, really highly recommend that you go there because you get to see some of the product, the way it grows, and you can see why. You know, it comes the way they do, but it's also very good to know how it really occurs in nature so that you really get a feel for how you best design it. I think it really, really helpful. And every time I do that, I learn something more new again. And so every trip is a learning here. So anyway, today, like it's kind of hard for me to follow up Bruno and then Brittany, seriously, because you know, because I'm kind of really in a kind of organizational thing, really helping out HFNA put together the programs and to round out the program so that there's something interesting for every one of you educationally and also to be able to see the beautiful product and to give you all the information that you need to know about it. But today, I'm actually doing a segment, hands-on workshop on bridal bouquet, part of the wedding celebration. But because we're doing the bridal bouquet, but something that I've noticed is, of course, in the wedding world, there's a certain look that's out there right now. I mean, it's being kind of gardeny, boho, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, we all follow trends through social media, and so often kind of have to mimic it because bride comes in and wants this, and then we do our best to kind of lead them into something that's a little bit better than that. But the one area that I don't think that we really talk about is really competition designing. Because there's something different about competition designing. It's not just your ordinary design that you will give to a bride. You're competing to show your craftsmanship, your knowledge on techniques, mechanics. And so you have another layer of something that you want to put in. The reason why we're doing designing competition design rather than just regular bridal bouquet is because we're actually launching a competition. And you guys are the first ones to have an option to enter it or not. And so we have boxes of flowers that is like a surprise package. And you must use every variety that's in there in your bouquet, but you can add on anything else to complement it. So it could be, because it's all tropicals, so you can complement it with temperate flowers. You could also complement it with other material, build structures, do things that to show off your design skills that would be suitable for competition work. Because we have done this before. We did a beautiful competition a couple years ago. It was really crazy because we started off with 50 boxes. 50 boxes were gone in less than 24 hours. So we had to up the game and make it 100 boxes offered. It's free. I mean, you get free flowers, and you get to experience designing with Hawaiian flowers. So we're going to do the same, but the first opportunity is to you guys. If you're here and you don't want to compete, that's okay. You still get a free box of flowers, and you get to still play with it. But after you learn some of the techniques and some of the kind of thinking behind it, planning, and I'm going to show you how to look at your surprise package to see what you can do with it, how to organize your thinking to gear to use it the best you can to get the best shot at the competition as possible. That's what I like to do. So so that's what we're going to do, and it launches here today. And I'll give you a little bit more information about it after we go through this whole process. So the first prize is a trip from the West Coast to Hawaii, or vice versa, round trip. The only thing is, included in that trip, you also get a nursery tour here on this big island. So you can plan around that vacation, and then you get to see the nursery and vacation some more. You can plan it whatever way you want, but that's the first prize. It's also, the People's Choice Prize is also a round trip, West Coast to Hawaii, but no tour. So there's no tour on that one. And then I think the second prize, you get 4 shipment of free boxes of flowers like 4 times quarterly through the year, and then twice a year for the third prize. So that's what you get. It's a great prizes, and it's free to enter. Like, you're gonna get free flowers, and you just gotta add whatever you touch to it, and that's what it's all about. So in the box, and that's what it's all about, is a surprise package. Involves checking out to see what you have. And so you're going to do this, but I'm not going to open this up because I already have it opened up over there. There's actually, but this is what you're going to get. Like, if you decide that you're not going to do it here and you want to do it at home, you just let them know so that they can ship it to you, right? So you can do it that way. But you do have an opportunity here to have some things that are cool here that you'll be able to work into it that you might not have at home. That's the big difference. So it's a bit of an advantage. So what we have, and I'm going to step down here for a moment, and I'm sorry to those guys over there, I'll show you. But there's actually 4 different kinds of boxes, but you're going to just get a box. So you're going to kind of get what you get. So the first box has, like, this is what you get right here. Really, basically, the only difference from box to box is really the color of anthurium, or the variety of anthurium. But you get, dendrobium, you get the anthurium, you get the psittacorum, the curly lawai, palm. Yeah, I think it's all the same. Hala. Well, this one doesn't. Oh, yeah, it has hala. So there's plenty of flowers and foliages, but just remember, you have to use all of the varieties that's in here so that you can share with us how cool your usage is. This one has a different anthurium, of course. So it's just a little softer pink. This one actually has a lot more because I've already used it in just sampling. But again, it's the difference is really the anthurium, and this one has the tropic fire. So, and this one is just a tease that I found over here. But that's what I mean, though. If you choose something like this, and maybe you want to use like this and connect to a peach color to create your own palette. So your palette is not dependent on what you have here necessarily, but and this is a challenge. And this is why I kind of really like this, because I really feel like sometimes when you just make what you want to make, then great. But I think some of the most fun competition is a surprise package to see what you can get out of, and everybody out of the same box. And so yeah, that's the challenge. So I'm going to just show you several things that we have because we really have like a buffet of flowers outside. I brought some more down from upstairs. So there's more than what was on display at lunchtime. And there's some supplies there, but I also have some supplies here. It's not a lot of supplies here, so you got to get creative. Like I would have loved to have given you bullion, but you know what? Bullion's in short supply. So in some ways, it's kind of not a good idea actually to put out stuff that's not available. So, but if you have a stash, then you're certainly welcome to use it in your bouquet when you get home. But so there's that kind of stuff here. There's more wires. There's a lot of just beautiful product from Hawaii that's available to use in different ways. I also have a little bit of raffia. All of this is available, and you can check out the other stuff that's out there. So you can decide on what you want to do. But what I thought that I would do is to sort of show you some of the techniques and things. I'm a judge quite often. I judge a lot. And depending on what the focus of the competition is, you have to kind of gear accordingly. And in most part, competition design kind of requires not just a beautiful collection of flowers, that it has some clever use of something, some of the flowers, and clever use of supplies, clever use of color via connecting not only flowers but to something else. Anytime that somebody shows the extra skill of being able to do something really special that's a real standout, that really attracts the judge's eye. That's really the key. So it's not just pleasing the bride with the color palette. It's not that at all. You really want to impress. I sort of built my sort of career, at least recently, on really, like I like to do programs where I want to show you what you can do instead of what I can do, because I think it's really, really important. But in the case of competition, you really got to show off what you can do. Like it's not about just, lukewarm, pretty. Like, let's make it really stunning and stand out. And one other thing that's really great about Hawaiian product is it's easier to stand out using tropicals. And of course, when you're here, lucky us from the mainland, like we see things that are just fallen on the side of the road, and that's crazy. Like a lot of the islanders think, oh, that's trash, but no, it's not for us. Those are the intriguing things, and those are the treasures that we covet, and when we use that, the people, if it's a mainland competition, they just go ooh and ah over it. That's what they do. So you have to kind of recognize what are the oohs and ahs that's going to grab attention. And I really feel like with a Hawaiian product today, we realize that they're not the biggest supplier of large quantity of few things. They're like a boutique supplier of a lot of different possibilities, and not always in a huge quantity. So if you guys are like a big event company, and you need 500 stems, a uniform heliconia, and you're not going to get it from Hawaii. In fact, I myself, if I do something and I need 20 stems of heliconia, I can almost expect that they're a little bit different. They're not all the same. And that's what I like about it. It's a real different way of buying. And I think for a lot of studio designers, people that do like really cool things, but not necessarily on the huge Jeff Latham scale, it's really the perfect kind of palette as far as botanicals go, because it grabs attention. Tomorrow I have like 3 amazing Anthurium verrocchia foliage that's like this long. Like you can have just a okay design, but you put that in there and all of a sudden everybody's really not. That's what it is. Those unique single items, sometimes inserted into a mix of, okay design, could really make something stand out. And I think that's what you need to also start to peel our eyes and really look for things that are really special that's not available at other places, that really makes your shop, your business stand out. And I think we can do that with Hawaiian product. So thankfully, Bruno did some awesome things with the banyan roots, my favorite, the passion vine, my favorite. I love them both because they're like the two ends of growth. the growing tips and the rooting tips, the two most important part of a beautiful plant. And when you use them, what it portrays is life. Because like I just have to say, I hope none of you are kind of people that takes the tips off of the growing tips. Like gladiola, take the tips off. Like if you do that, we might have to talk about it. Because I think when you take the tip off, you take away that growing, like the most vibrant part of that plant that makes people excited. Or it makes a structure like what Bruno makes come alive. It makes it come alive. Even if it's a cut flower, it makes it come alive. And that's what you have to remember. I think every time you design, if you honor the root and the growing tips and show that off, it makes the design really vibrant. So that's one of the main tips. It's one of my main philosophy in design is I want my design to really look really alive and really vibrant. Okay, so I want to just show you a few structures because I think a lot of times having some structures that are artful, that again, often sets it apart from some of the other bouquets. And that's the key, is if it's different. I think if you do with just plant material, it could be beautiful, but I would almost say as a judge, it probably won't place in the top 3 unless it's just like super, super outstanding with color and texture and still unique plant material. You still have to have unique plant material, but I'm talking about technically, mechanically, it's really good to have something in there that's handmade, that's really special, and that's what Bruno does, is the structure, the container itself draws your eye to it, right? So I just want to show you a few things. Combinations, like this one here, for instance. Like this one here is actually it's actually mulberry paper that's been torn and put over cardboard that is wired. It's just cardboard from a packing. And it's covered with this mulberry paper, just with the U-glue dashes. So, you know, sometimes like you say, especially like a surprise package at a competition, if it's on site, you want to do things that are quick because you can't do the tedious stuff. So you got to find ways to, and look for material. You always have cardboard, and you almost always have wire and tape. So you can do this, and you can even surface it with any other kind of textural material. This could be actually even leaves and other things. Like, let's see, where is the, oh yeah. Like the Leucodendron argentea, this one here, like this material here. If you have this, you can use that to cover that and make it a more botanical surface. But I happen to love this paper, and I brought it because sometimes I think unique paper, because I'm just a paper addict. So if you know that I'm a judge, you might want to use paper. It kind of really turns me on. But that's the thing that you have to remember too. And like, I know that you don't change your style for a specific competition, but if you know in fact what usually the winner of that particular competition, what that looks like, then you might think twice about leaning a little bit in that direction. Like if you're competing in Europe, you really can't design American style. That just never works. Or if you're actually competing and the panel judges, you notice, are all AIFD members, I think there's kind of a certain kind of lean to a certain style. And that, like, you kind of have to read and kind of gauge the judges and what's the intent of this competition. And of course, the intent of this competition is showing the product that's being shipped. So that's why you have to make sure it shows up beautifully. And you flatter it in every way you can to make it stand out, right? So anyway, what I've done here, this is not the bouquet. In fact, I'm not actually doing the complete bouquet. I'll show it tomorrow because I want to show the steps. I'm going to walk it with you so that you can see how the thinking goes behind this, right? But what I've done is, because this particular collection had the psittacorum that's actually like a rosy raspberry orange. It has a little bit of orange in it, a little bit of the raspberry, and it came with the obake anthurium that was in the pink. So I chose the pink paper to flatter it. Texture of this versus this, and then the back side of the alocasia, just seeing the back side, not the front side. I want to see the beauty of this against this and the beauty of this side against this, so that you're really playing with what you have in a multiple surface way, so that as you turn the bouquet, you see some incredible view of the combination. I'm not going to just go with just a single lily grass. It's just to show that this surface that's got this undulating surface and kind of rough texture with these kind of stringy decal edge of the paper to a much more orderly, clean line really flatters one another also. So it's really a lot about flattering contrast of the different elements, whether it's line to texture, color to texture, it could be color to line, but you always want to be contrasting things because that's how you tell a story. If everything's the same, then it's a boring story. But if you have like just a story that tells a difference, that's really the key. You want to show the difference of one thing to the other in the most amazing way. So anyway, this is just an example, a simple example, a color palette of what you can do. Another one that I'm going to show you is this one. This is not the design. I want to just show you that this is another one that actually has some of the flowers in it. Yeah, this is the one that it's that same palette that came from there. But I just want to show you what I created to stage it. Because guess what? If you have a bouquet that's just using just the flowers, botanicals only, and then there's a bouquet that has this structure, this is going to win. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's that extra step when it has an extra workmanship that shows that there's a level beyond just putting flowers together. It's going to do better. It just does in most cases. The only instance that it doesn't is if the organization that's putting together, like, okay, Alexandra Farms, garden roses. Like they want garden roses and fluffy and romantic and gardeny. This may not be the winner there just because the judges at that one is looking for the garden roses in its natural state. But if it's a competition that's looking for skillful use of mechanics techniques and the competition design that I'm talking about, then you need to show that extra skill. So with this one, there's no time limit. You can play as long as you want. So if you want to build something that really showcases the material and flatters that with additional mechanics and techniques that shows off your skills, then you have a much better chance of placing in the top. So this one here is actually, and we have some there, not a lot, so you can play with it, but it's really a flat cane, and it's a Smithers Oasis product. See, this is the most unfortunate thing right now. Some of these products that we've been accustomed to do some cool things with is not in supply. And so, that's why you have to kind of have played with all kinds of things. So given whatever you have, that you can do something with it. You have to have experience with all of these things. That's why you have to kind of experiment a lot. But what I've done here, in addition to that, is I have these kind of extenders. They are extenders. I mean, these are like actually Middlino extenders that's wrapped with raffia. And some of these are thinner, just one Middlino and one white aluminum wire, just aluminum wire like this wrapped with yarn. But you can see that I chose to go with the pink and the peach to pick up. There's a pink, but it's a slightly peachy pink. And then that way I can segue to, because I know in this mix there is an orange pseudocorum. So I have to marry the orange with a pink. But it also has dendrobium that's white. So that's why I'm using white, the cane, flat cane. So that I'm kind of by other supplies and other means trying to connect with the color of the flowers that I have in my palette. So so that's what I've done. This is just an extender, but I also did the wrap. These are just bullion wrapped. That's what this is. That's what I really love about like the ficus roots or the monstera roots, is even though this shows a lot of skill and it's kind of got this sort of a very technical look to it. It kind of needs to be softened up with naturalized a little bit because the days of just doing really technical only is also gone. Like we've kind of graduated from, and we're looking for something that marries that to a very organic, sort of sustainable. That's why the flower come in, because it really makes sense. When you put flowers in, it makes it come alive. But it also makes it come alive that I'm also using these kind of extensions that are also earthy as well. And also it's consistent to the Hawaiian flower collection. So I think that works really well. Of course, when I was over at Allison's, I saw these beautiful ripsalis. I love them. I mean, they're just so fabulous. So do go out and look for some really cool things. You know, it could be something that's dropped on the ground, little pods or something that is intriguing, at least to us on the mainland. And for some of you that's right here, you might actually look at it and see that it's really quite beautiful. Because you've been probably walking by it every day for whatever. But I also love this cordyline, this tea leaf, because of that edging of that color, because it just really connects with all of that. And then, of course, this and the gloriosa connects with the pseudocorum. Because so all of a sudden, it becomes a much more organic and vibrant, gardeny, but edgy at the same time, and showing extra skills with your mechanics. And I think that's, you know, you want to kind of, what I do is I like to tick off everything I want to accomplish in this bouquet. Like, do I have the color? Do I have the line? Do I have the texture? Do I have the transition from technical to natural and organic? Do I have the gardeny to, you know, so that it's a little bit more encompassing instead of all tropicals. Because I think sometimes when it's one or the other, at least for me, it's starting to get a little bit boring. It's not like you haven't kind of tried hard enough, you know, and you haven't pushed the envelope with the combinations. So this, by the way, was grown here. Yeah. And you know what is really cool about it? I think gloriosas grow really good here. I've seen it in Honolulu in people's yard, like growing rampantly. I want to say to the growers that are here, and the woman that's growing it is up in Waimea, and she's really doing some really beautiful, growing some beautiful gloriosa. But look how gorgeous that looks. And I mean, this is what I was just sort of showing it as a sampling, because that's all I was doing is collecting material to see what goes together before I actually start to design it. You know, so that you kind of create that palette and see, oh my gosh, that really works. But look at the fussiness of this next to the smoothness of the anthurium. You know, it's like anthurium on anthurium is like too much of the same. You need that kind of that difference. So I've consciously made an effort to kind of check off all the things I want to accomplish in this design. I do think this Lysianthus is also beautiful, because look at that. So I'm going to just slip that in there. Like, this is really quite gorgeous. Like, it's now not only, like, I think it's really beautiful, but also intriguing. Like, it's like I never thought of combining those, or actually that pack forced me to combine those. But I've turned it into a creative exercise that I enjoy, instead of saying, oh, those colors don't go together. Because that's what a lot of people do, right? They're like immediately thinking, I don't want to do these. What I want you to do is take the challenge, look at what you got, and see what you can get out of it with the selection that's out there. Because it's really exciting, because you'll find something that maybe you may not have tried before and love it. So that's kind of what I want you to do. So anyway, with the Ripsalis, some of it is wired and extended down. I allow myself to, for a lot of things actually, I allow myself to use it without water. But not necessarily free-stemmed with a bouquet work. It's just usually taped, wired and taped, or it's being glued into something, so that I don't always have all the stems going into the bouquet. Because I feel like sometimes then the bouquet handle becomes really heavy, and it's no longer very elegant in the end as a finished piece. I like the handle to be really quite slim and not overworked. So having the wire on some of that instead of the actual stem reduces it and also makes it actually stay together much better. So think about that as well, because as a judge, I'm also looking for those kind of elegance. And especially with the bouquets, when I'm a judge in an in-person competition, I will pick it up. And what's really important is actually the physical balance of the bouquet, so that when you pick it up, it doesn't feel like it's going to just pop out of your hand. There's lots of bouquets that I've handled that's like that. And I want to go back to how bouquets competition used to be. And it won't be ever that way again, but it used to be everything was wired and taped, and the handle was super slim and beautiful and sleek. And you're supposed to be able to actually put it on one finger and it balances. Like, to me, that real true physical balance takes a lot of skill. And I would covet for some of that to come back, because so many bouquets are becoming so big and heavy. And I just feel like we're kind of losing the elegance of the beauty of bouquet. So anyway, that's kind of how I'm thinking behind it. And that's what I want to share with you today. I don't want to finish it because I want you to do it. I don't want you to see what I finished and try to copy it. I don't want that. I want you to at least get the tips on how to do this. You do it, and then I'll do it so you can see what I do, but afterwards. But I'm just giving you a tip on this one. Okay, so the next one I want to show you is, and you might have noticed that we don't have water in any of these vases because we can't have water in here. I'm sorry, because they didn't plastic the carpet. So it's kind of sad, and I'm a little bit worried because some of the flowers that we have out there, the temperates, are in water. Like, the Dara, like chocolate lace, you can't have it out of water. If we can't be laying it like that flat laid, you can't do that. So once you start the design, just remember after you get it, just put it in water when you get back to your room or whatever. But anyway, this one here is like kind of a real concoction of wires and things. But it's a little, it looks like, oh my God, it's so contrived. There's so much stuff mechanically. But it's there kind of for a reason, because first of all, it allows me to hook and things just stay in place because I have mechanics that's created to do that. And I like that, when I want something to, like a stem is like this, but I want the stem to go like this. It's nice to be able to just hook it so that I don't have to necessarily wire and tape. And, have ability to, but the intent of this one is more to be a structure to cover with flowers rather than seeing it like this. It's made for stacking flowers into it. So it has these spots that you can push flowers in. And, maybe I'm going to just go ahead and take this one again. I don't know if this even has orange in it, but let's just do it. So I want to sort of push this down into it, deep into it, so that it fits right into that spot, just like that. And it stays exactly there. It doesn't move around. Like, that's what I like about it. Once you create a structure, that then it has little windows that you can slip into. And if I wanted, like for instance, just going to set this down for a moment. If I want to, for instance, because I love this material. Oh, I forgot to show you this. This is supposed to go in here as well. Look at this. Woo! Right? I mean, this is what really thrills me, because, like, this is actually Love in the Puff. We grow it in our garden. The leaves don't hold up particularly well, so you're going to just strip the leaf. But these pods will dry on these thin, wiry stem, and they will just dry. It's just the most wonderful thing. And that's another unique item that makes this really stand out, don't you think? The combination is just magical. And not only magical, but it's just a whole transparency of it. And that's what I want to actually also talk about, is the density. When it's really full, it's dense and heavy, and there's nothing, like you don't see anything beyond that wall of flower. to be able to do this, and then so that you can gaze through and still see the glorious on that side. I mean, this is what's really, really delightful about designing, is when you put in those kind of features. That's what really tickles the judge to death, because they see a plenty of just a wad of flowers. And this makes it a standard. Yeah, I forgot to. I didn't think I would find this in Hawaii, honestly, but this is one of the temperate. I think this is Christian. Yeah, it's not. Like, she's got an eye for the right thing. I mean, that's, I look at different people's Instagram and I'm like, I like her. She thinks just like me. And I love it when, they come up with this kind of, this is unique. I mean, this is not something you get at every wholesale. That's kind of what you want. You want that stuff because it makes you really be noticed in a competition. So I'm just going to tuck that in there just so that it belongs with that. Yeah, you know what? Why don't you do that for me? Thank you. I hope you don't mind that I'm not finishing it, but I just don't want to spoil it. And I don't want people copying. I just want you to be hearing what I'm saying and practice the steps. Because I guarantee you, if you do it that way, you'll find that the end result nets exactly what you intend to do. It's really designing with intention, right? Okay, so this one. I mean, the biggest magic in this one, of course, and Bruno did just so, but you need to sort of trim some leaves. Like, I don't trim at all because I do want some of these growing ends like this. I usually take away the unflattering, something that's not really doing anything for me. So I'll take those out because some of these leaves are a little bit too large. So I usually like some of the leaves more towards the tip. The tip is the most important part of the plant for me, always. But you want to be able to see, the tendrils. You want to see this. And by the way, those are also very useful in your design. If you have some bare grass or things like that, you can thread it right through that so it stays in a curve to go with this. It floats because you let it be grabbed by these tendrils. So they become part of your magical structure. But this is where you would put something like this. I'm just going to cut it. It's kind of hard when I don't have a vase with water. But let's say this. So if I want, I'll just set this in here. So what I want to do is, the structure is only there to be the core and not the end size. Let's see. Yeah, see, it's grabbing. Except for that, I don't want it to do that right now. Okay. So if I go into it, like, say, right in here. Then I can allow this to grab it. And this is like a fairly hard wire. It's like, I think it's a 18 gauge, or it might be even 20 gauge, but it's not florist wire. I found it somewhere, and I kind of like it. So I want to just slip this over, because it's like, this is the other thing that I do, and I urge you to kind of actually think about it. I'm always taking pictures of tendrils because I want to learn how to design like Hand of Nature. And if I have wire, I want it to be shaped as if it was Hand of Nature, not my hand. I don't want it to look like Clunky Man's hand that made this horrible looking vine, because it doesn't translate. I'm always taking pictures of vine and trying to practice the way it's shaped. So, that way you can kind of make it sort of flow out. And maybe this one here, I might hook it into here as well. But it's like these wires are made so that I can use it to hook things, so that I don't have to necessarily always bind it together, that it becomes part of that mechanic that I created for the purpose of. And, this could just then go down in here. And maybe this one grabs it so that, but you can see that then the vine just flows according to that, and it's not just laying on top. Like it's actually growing as if it's floating through that space. I wanted to show you that example, and then you're going to just other, like dendrobiums could be laid across there and sort of fit it into those little niches. But what I also did here, because I sort of combined a lot of techniques here just to show. So one of my favorite things to do too is the hala. Let's see. And some of you know this because I know some of you and I teach it all the time. But a lot of people don't know it, so I like to show it. But one of my biggest frustration when I go to Europe, they have these typha that's really flat and it droops really nicely. But our typha has kind of pulpy center and it kinks. It doesn't flow. Even if you flatten it, it still kinks. And most of our other grasses are similar. But this is how I get the flat typha that does really wonderful things. And so from the hala. So what I do is the beauty of this foliage is it's kind of like almost like a W, but it definitely has a V. And this is the rib that keeps this shape, this beautiful curvilinear. But if you take off these side wings without the rib, just outside of that rib, and if you do this, you get that beautiful, like a beautiful piece like this that curves like this, which is really gorgeous in a cascade bouquet because it goes up and it comes down. It's not like this is easy, like you can get that anywhere, but this is difficult to get where it has a playfulness without attachment. So you can do that and slice the other side and you still have a rib that's very yellow, which could be really great with oncidiums so that there's more yellow. And because sometimes the hala is too big. And so this is a way to pare it down so it becomes a much more sleeker, cleaner, modern kind of a look. So this is one of the tips that I have. So I did that here. So this one here, right here. And then I also used the one that has half done. So it has that as well, just to show what it looks like. But it's threaded through this structure. But I also did this. This is actually just paper, and it's kind of just like you can crunch up any leaves and you can just thread it with wire and get that kind of that look. But this is what you do if you don't have enough dendrobium to really give it an impact. And you know, we might have just 3 or 4 short. So if you do this and you just glue in because it's white, so if you glue in a few blossoms, you can get a lot longer pieces out of it. So, you know, it gives you an extra edge because I have that option. And so I wanted to show you that because that's just threading, just taking a paddle wire and just threading it, just folding it and threading it, and you get that. Also have here the Argentia. What's the first part? Come on, you guys. What's the first part? Something Argentia. Huh? Yes, thank you. Leucadendron. I just lost it for a minute, you guys. Yeah, this leucadendron, I mean, they are so fabulous. Like, you can leave it, like I told you a little while ago, like I did the paper, but you can roll it and add, you know, I kind of tucked it in here, but I just rolled it so that it's a little bit more interesting, kind of almost scaly. And it's this, so you start from the tip and you just roll it, roll it, roll it. And it's got just bind wire in it, so it's not limp. It has a little bit of body, so you can kind of get some shape out of it, but it's not limp. So, you know, it's like, okay, what do we have on our table as far as supplies? What do we have in material? What can I do with it that's going to be different than the other guy? So if it's a surprise package and you're live and everybody has to open up the box and you have to do this thing. And if you're well practiced, and you should be, like you should be practicing every day if you're in a flower shop, because because you can get really smart about just being creative that way. What I used to do every day when I had a shop, every day at the end of the day, Every scrap that was on the table, I had to make something beautiful out of it. And it could be, dead flower. It could be anything. You might just contrive it and cut it and see what it looks like when you chop it off. But you practice it to just get that creative juice out of you every day with whatever that's left over and see if you can make something amazing. And because then whatever you get, you know what to do with it, right? So this is really good. And that's kind of where you come up with some of this stuff. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is, okay, so there's another one. This one here, this structure. So this is not at the surprise package, obviously. This takes a little bit of time. So this is like this one here. This competition, you can take time and make something outstanding, and you can flower it. So you have an opportunity to really show up with some mechanical things, and because you have time to do it. I didn't put this in to make a statement or anything. I just thought I'd just tuck it in to know that there is palm in this collection. But I was trying to figure out, do I want to strip it? Do I want to slice it? Do I like it as it is? And I was thinking maybe I would just keep the leaf because this is a big enough piece. Because if it was smaller, this is too big. And these fronds are too big. But if this is big enough, I can use it with a full frond on, as long as it kind of is tamed and going downwards. I mean, this is not bad at all. The proportion is not bad relative to the size of the structure. That's the other thing that you have to know is it consistent to the structure that you've built? And proportionally, as well as all the other elements, right? So I was just trying it to see, do I like it or not? I'm still debating. So the main structure is built with one main spine that's made out of, and this actually is not a Middleino extender. It's actually because the Middleino being in short supply, I went out and sourced the reed rattan that's used for basket weaving. And you could get it in all different thicknesses. They come in roll. And that's the beauty of it. They come in a roll, so they come curved. And I used it curved because I almost always curve my Middleino extender with a wire in it, but you can do it without the wire. If you want to go sustainable and want to have 100% compostable, you can do it all without wire. That was kind of the point. So this shape came as it was with the way it came in a roll. And then I used these are aluminum wire. I guess this is not compostable. This is a reusable. It's that other side. But I used the aluminum wire and wrapped it just as it is, aluminum wire wrapped with raffia. And I do like it. One thing I will say is I think today, if you actually use just aluminum wire, and especially like etched, it's not good. That shiny wire is kind of gone. Like that's like, if you do that today, it's like, oh, dated. Nobody like that anymore because we're really becoming much more conscious of the natural feel. And so you want, like raffia is really, really good. And it blends beautifully with all of your product. And you can see how it blends so beautifully with this particular, the ficus root. So anyway, that's how I made this structure and this. But I also overlaid it with the ficus. And then what I'm wanted to show is how to flower this. And there's a way to flower into it like hand-tie bouquet into this. I can do that. And in fact, maybe I will. Let's see, Brendan, maybe you can give me that. I'm not going to use the kit. I'm going to cheat. But the thing is, you're allowed to use other color of anthurium. Like say if you have something real deep orange and you want to go lighter, you can also complement it with another color. Like as long as we see the color that you were given, it's okay. But anyway, so you could, bring this in, and like it's actually very easy to design into this because it's got all these little windows to put your flowers in. I do like kind of this way and that way. It's almost like two people looking at each other, rather than two people going out. Try not to leave the party by positioning one going that way and that way. That feels like not a cool place. Everybody's leaving. So you want to make sure that there's like some good kind of positioning. But you can design like this, and all your material fed into this. That gives you a beautiful shape. Or I just want to take that out and show you another way, which is this. So what this is actually a chicken wire roll, and it's a green chicken wire. This one is the Smithers Oasis roll, the chicken wire. But I did go out to Home Depot, and they have the green coated chicken wire here at Home Depot as well, which is great. But what I did was, and I'll show this. What I did was create a roll. So this is a 1/2 of the width. And what I'm going to do is just roll it up like this so that, and I embed the podocarpus. This is like the best. Like at home, I use boxwood because I have some boxwood, but this is the best. It's so inexpensive. And what happens when you use this is, thanks, Brenna. And these are like, a lot of these are scraps from something yesterday. So there were a lot of these in the box. And that's what often happens. And it tickles me to death when you make something and there's all these odds and ends and that I actually use those too. I just love, like, looking through the garbage and finding treasures and thinking like, oh yeah, I can use that. So all you have to do is just kind of fill this in lightly like this. And then you're going to roll it. Okay, so then the thing that some of us in some of our organic classes kind of learned and have played with is playing with these bongo ties. Bongo ties are for cord management. It's for tech guys. But this is what it is. It's just a little stick, which is really great because, like, if you have a lot of roses and you have a lot of rose stems, you can use those. And then you just wrap the rubber band around it and pull so that it's like this. And all you have to do is just do this and just, not as quick, so that it's just bound like that. Because this way, and you do 2 of them, this way it holds it together. But when it's finished and when this dries, like you can use this several times. It stays green for like 2 or 3 weeks. So you can use it multiple times. But after it's gone, then you just release those and you have that piece again and you can refill it, right? So what I did with that particular bouquet is to, let me just cheat here and just, because I don't have a stick. So I'm just gonna just actually wrap it. I can do that too. But see, even the bongo tie is a lot easier to take off to release. That's why I like it. So anyway, like this. So what you can do with this now is you can actually stick in stems into it. So that it doesn't have to go all the way down into the handle. So this is kind of like if you had a surface and you're just gluing some things to the surface, you can do the same with this, except for that it's green, and if you missed it, it actually holds pretty good moisture. So it's almost like moss, but moss is like, it's sometimes hard to get stems into it. It's a little sticky. This is not. Like stems goes into this really easy. And so like, well, even like anthuriums, with anthurium, because it has a long stem, you would still go through, but then it's, like you can kind of set it in there and this goes into the handle. But if you don't have that long a stem because you have a bunch of shorts, then you could just put the short in there. And it looks actually pretty good, especially if you take like some of these and also use it as greens over, because then it starts to hide it. Also, you can do things like taking like this, or actually, Brenna, outside there's what do you call it? Philodendron Xanadu. Yeah, if you can get Xanadu. Because this way you can actually get a layer of interesting greenery flowing into the upper half that kind of embeds into this that's separate from the stuff that's going into the handle. And you'll almost completely cover this with combination of foliage and the flowers. So you can get, that's what I would intend to do in that one. Or you can make some of the leaves come out of it. Here's one. So that you can actually make this, you know, so that it goes like this. And look at how much of it actually covers up. And with alocasia, they're kind of touchy. They need water. So all you have to do is put those green spiky tube into it, and it fits right in there. But see how then fills up? Yeah, and then we can have some of these back in here. If it's long stem, then you can bring it back down. But if it's not long stem, you just keep it in there because it's going to hold up just fine. And then you can then take, you know, your anthurium. And if this is kept kind of low, like you can have like just combination of sides flowing through that looks lovely. And then you bring in some other stems coming down right in so that you have actually 2 layers of material. I think it's just a different way of designing. Like people look at it and say, how is that done? As long as when they look into it, that it's done properly, but it gives you a whole different combination of 2-layer designing. That looks pretty fantastic. But you can see by putting in some of these greens in there as well, that you can start to cover up the rubber band. You start to cover up the chicken wire, and it just flows. Or you can put like your, these are ends, but you can also put like vine right into the ends. And again, with that one, I think you'll need to, especially if you have leaves on it, you'll need to actually put water tubes in it. But water tube could fit right into there, and that green spike water tube would just be perfect. But you can see how things can spill out of it. And then then you can start to see how it would just flow, and then you can design other things down into the stem, right? So just a couple of different methods like this makes a design ultimately really much more intriguing. And I think that's the key, is you want to intrigue your judges. Okay, so then next, yeah, there's another one. This one here, like I chose to just slice up the Rica palm. Kind of old technique. Sometimes if you do it in combination with certain things, it could look like the 80s or 90s. But in this one, I like it the best if I can do it horizontal than vertical. I think vertical looks more dated than horizontal. Horizontal, it makes your eyes move, and it gives you like this beautiful spaces. And I think you can do something really quite stunning. The airiness of this fine Middleino is outstanding. And you want to keep it transparent and not to cover it up too much. That's the key, is you want it to be very transparent with this one, because if you fill this, then all that work is going to waste. But to see the spaces in between is actually stunning. And I could even go further with like steel grass or something and just shoot out even more, so that it's like a really huge design, but with not a lot in it, but stunning. So, you know, thinking about the effect of all your elements and the wow factor, combination of techniques, mechanics, and the material use. This is kind of what it's all about. And then I also do these things called tapestry sticks. Tapestry sticks are just a piece of aluminum wire. And, you know, I look for aluminum wire when it's on sale. I happened to catch Smithers Oasis when they were trying to get rid of some of the colors that they were going out of line. And I think I got the full rolls for like $3 each. So I bought like 2 cases. Like I got like 60 rolls to last a couple years. You know what? I might have to use this. Okay, I'll use that. So what you do is take a piece like this. I only have that roll of Middleino, so that doesn't work. But you can also use like, this is bind wire that's a little bit thicker. And sometimes, all I do is just beef this up a little bit so that it's a little bit shorter than the long wire, and then a little bit shorter yet still, so that it's thicker in the middle, and then a little bit shorter so that you get that gradation. And then I just wrap that with, in this case, raffia, so that you kind of get that thickness through the middle. And and then what I do also is to use U-glue dashes, and I only use halves because they're not cheap. So I just start with that attached to the wire, and then I start the wrap, and I just go to the end and bring it back. Like I just go to the end and then bring it back, so that you get a really nice, tight raffia wrap around it that you can use like kind of as like almost like a sickle shape, which is that I showed you in one of the designs that I did, the bouquet I did that. So this is how you make these tapestry sticks. A lot of my tapestry sticks are a lot fatter, and I cover it with yarn, so it's really very colorful. But in this case, with a lot of the Hawaiian stuff, actually, I don't use yarn a lot in Hawaii because it makes you hot looking at it. And besides the fact, there's not too much a good collection of colors here, as it is on the mainland, of course. So, but if you're interested in really cool yarns, you should go to, it's called Webs. It's a yarn exchange. It's online. And you can get, actually you can get like yarns that are organic. Organic wools. You can get also like linen and bamboo, like different fibers that are organic, which is really, really cool. So there's a sustainable side to that. That's really, really nice. So anyway, you just wrap like this, and then where it ends, you want to just put another tab of your glue, and then you just add on another. So that's kind of how it starts, and this is how you make it. And then that way you can bend it and do some things with it. Learn to bend it like a beautiful vine. So anyway, like these are things, like just little things that you can play with to add into your design to give it dimension, but also mechanical ability. So that's, and I did want to show the different yarns that I have. That these are actually, most of them, except for the thicker ones, most of these are just aluminum wire wrapped with yarn. But what's nice about it is if you have like Regina, for instance, that's the anthurium, that's that kind of eggplant color. Like the blend of like kind of this and this, like it really could really bring out the color in that, and adds that little extra, that flower that may be missing in that color, I can make up with some of these concocted items. We want you to get a box. I want you to open it, see what you have, and then I want you to figure out what kind of a structure or the kind of accessory that you might want to create those, and then we're going to go outside and look at what other material that's out there that you want to add to it. You're allowed to add up to 10 stems of something else. And then you're going to design until you feel that you got that piece that's ready to go. What you're going to do is photograph it. This time we need a photograph to show that you have all the material in it. So front side, back side, so we can spot it. And then you're going to put a real good picture that's going to be the one that's going to be published, like as your piece, like the best side. Like we want that picture. If you put in extra details as far as techniques, mechanics, I want close-up of those because I want the judges to be able to see it. So you're going to provide probably no more than 5, because I need front, back, beautiful shot, back side, flatter picture. So 5 maximum. And then because it'll be judged by a panel of judges that are probably present in this room. We could actually put together the judging sheet that you can look at, because that's another thing that you should always request if you're competing. You want to look at the judging sheet so that you can see the distribution of points, because there's no point in tediously doing something that will not add up in points. Like you only do that when you know that, like for instance, like If it's a standard judging sheet that has only like the elements and principles of design, and it doesn't have a specific thing for creativity or innovation, maybe not so much of that tedious stuff. Because some judges, and I'm saying this because I don't know how each one of our judges will judge, right? I'm going to teach them to be very objective and not subjective, that it's not about what they like or not like. We will go over this so that they understand it. But you still get different people looking at like the judging differently. So if there's not a category that says creativity, innovative, some judges don't know where to put those points in. But just let's go through the process so that I can kind of work with you to see if you're kind of getting the idea of what could potentially win. Because don't you want a trip to Hawaii? Oh, no, you're here, some of you. But then to the West Coast, how about that, right?